Been streamed live too.
Yes.
He's bringing us in one at a time, guys. Yeah,
Like now Perry's up, but we can't
Bless
hear
his
him.
heart. Bless his heart.
We can't hear you, Will.
Can you hear me now?
There we
can hear
go.
you
Oh,
now.
yeah.
So we did the whole intro to the show and nobody could
I
hear
was
me.
pointing-
This
I was
only
pointing
happens
my
at Cats versus
headphones
Cars.
Trying to get your
Guys.
attention.
So let me start over with what I was saying. We'll bring them in. I said this is your host, William Washington. All right. You can reach me right below. You see Will E. Dubs right there on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. All right. I hope that you've seen us in the previous weeks right here on YouTube and Facebook. All right. We're going to be here every single Monday night at 8:30, between 8:30 and 9. All right. Catch us right here and we'll talk about your favorite Cats versus Cards. So this is for all of Kentucky. This show today, we're going to bring in our all-star cast and we're going to be talking about what happened this week now that we're about a quarter into the season. We've had Louisville versus Boston College. We've had Kentucky versus Vandy. We've had people that thinks that Louisville is the next greatest thing since sliced bread with explosive offense. We have people that's talking about Kentucky and how Kentucky looks like trash because they don't play anybody. I've had one person that told me that it was the weakest 4-game stretch in the history of college football. I'm not exaggerating. He's actually said that in text. All right, so we're going to talk about that. And everybody, if you're joining us in, if you want to join in on a conversation, remember, comment on our chat. All right, the chat of the show on Facebook or even on YouTube. And whatever you type, I can see it on the screen. I can bring it up on our screen, and we will discuss it right here. If you want to be part of the conversation, you want to be on the show in the future, message me on Twitter. Will E. Dubs, all right? And without further ado, we'll try take two. All right, take two. First one, D-Trick. What's going on, D? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Go Big Blue. Go Big Blue on the take two.
D-Trick all the way from Virginia. All right, next we have Perry Henderson. You see that red in there, so you know he bleeds red. What's going on, Perry? All of a sudden, he can't hear. See, that's just like a Louisville fan. All right.
God bless America.
God bless America, he says. All right. Next one, PJ, all the way from Lexington. What's up, PJ? Oh, wait a minute. Let me get you some audio. What's up, man?
My bad. Can you hear me now?
You can hear you now.
There we go. Y'all know me, Mr. Now, actually, I think that hold on, wait, Will. That was on me. I actually had mine on mute, just in case.
Okay, all right.
So that was on me, y'all. That was me, fellas. But this is the Cats by 90. So
yeah, his patented Cats by 90. Last but not least, he's chewing on his fingers. He can't wait to get on here. Look at him, Mr. Authority himself. He's going to come in with the deep voice, Mr. Richard Henderson. What's going on, Rich?
L1C4, baby.
Y'all heard him. L1C4, baby. Told you it was coming. Told you it was coming. Those guys' names.
That's all of his passwords. That is all of his passwords.
All of them. All right. Let's get started. I think last week, where did we start at? Did we start with Kentucky last week?
Yes,
we started with Kentucky last week. Okay, so this week, let's start with the Louisville Cardinals. And I'm going to do something different. Let's start with the Kentucky fans. Mr. PJ, Philemon Johnson, come on. Let us know. Did you watch the game against?
Hold on, let me get my notes.
Yes, I watched the. I will be honest. I watched some of the game in replay because of course it was a blowout. It was really most of the first half. It was about what I expected as far as Boston College being Boston College. Louisville, of course they're definitely better on offense. We know they are that. They pretty much did what they wanted to do. I always give good comments, but but no, I mean I think
lies.
But I think
this is the strategy of start soft and wait till somebody says something crazy and then he's gonna come back and blast you. That's what it is.
Yeah. I mean, look. It was Boston College. They did what they're supposed to do. You know what I'm saying? They covered the spread, I believe, as well. Of course, definitely. They was able to coast in the second half. That's always fun for the team. We're able to do that.
Yeah.
I still don't feel like we learned anything about them because
Yeah.
it's Boston College, and I would say on our week horrible historical week 4-game skid, right? 4-game record. Boston College be one of the worst teams on that schedule for sure, 100%. They're terrible. They don't do nothing. They don't do anything good. Like there's not a thing they do good.
I tell you one thing that we learned on that horrible 4-game stretch that Kentucky had. It looks like that Indiana would have fit in really well with
them. They would fit in right now.
What's up, Dietrich?
Would have fit right in.
What's up, Dietrich? How you doing,
exactly.
Man? What did we learn?
All right, so the Louisville game.
Did you cut out?
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm here. I was just letting Perry finish whatever it was spewing out of his face. But look, I watched the Louisville game. I don't know how, but they made Plummer look like Doug Flutie, you know, spinning the ball out there all day. These 50-plus yard pass plays on this questionable defense. But listen, Louisville did what they needed to do. Boston College, part of Louisville's cupcake parade. They started with a good team, and they've had 3 cupcakes since. So, but Louisville's cupcake parade will end. I mean, I think they got 600 yards on them. So, listen, they did what they needed to do. But you know what? That's what Louisville does. Louisville under Crum plays a shootout type of offense. Shootout just type of game strategy. They want to just outshoot. I've been sneaking watching Louisville games for a few years, and I've just been seeing that game after game, high scoring, 40 points, combined overs of 70 and 80 points between both teams, and all they want to do is get one more touchdown than the other team. So this is more shootout ball, which makes sense if I'm Louisville to play that way. They want to go for basketball scores in games. Let them have it. But they did what they needed to do this week.
I'm going to tell you, you're getting ready to have the Louisville fans come after you. You see the thumbs up already. He's ready to go. Perry, what did you see today? What did you see yesterday?
Dietrich never disappoints. He's very consistent. Like, you know, like anything else in life. You get up every day, the sun's up, and Dietrich is there to badmouth Louisville.
Consistently, factually correct.
Like Raisin Bran and Muslix going through somebody's system. Dietrich is consistent. But anyways,
guaranteed, huh?
but anyways, so what I would say is we did look very good offensively. I haven't seen us look this good offensively in a long time, and you have to understand who Boston College played last week. They did play them at home, but they really, really wrestled really well with Florida State. Somebody might say Florida State had an off game. Somebody might say they didn't get up for it. But at the end of the day, Florida State was fighting for their lives going into the final ticks, and they needed some literal calls by the referees to save them in that game. And so I really felt like we saw a lot of Jeff Brom, and in Jeff Brom's, we saw in his coaching, we see a lot of Petrino's influences, and we see a lot of some other people's influences in the coaching. So from an offensive standpoint, I have not been that pleased about a team running their offense in a long time. I mean, and this includes Satterfield had some good moments, and Petrino had some good moments with Lamar Jackson, but we literally looked unstoppable and that's what you want your team to do against league opponents. You want them to look unstoppable. Yes, Boston College would fit in really well on UK's schedule as probably the toughest team that they the toughest team that UK would have played up until now. You know, definitely more power in them, more power to their puff, you know. But anyways,
we know who'll be on those message boards. Craziness on those message boards. All right, so
crazy.
Hey, Richard, what's your take on Louisville? By the way, just in case if nobody knows, of course all Louisville fans know this, but as far as our Kentucky counterparts, Louisville actually won the game 56-28. Plummer, he did look like the second coming of a great quarterback. I mean, he was 18 for 21 for 388 yards and 5 passing touchdowns, which is crazy. What do you think about
Louisville
that,
had no
Richard?
turnovers. Louisville had 0 turnovers.
Zero
So, they
turnovers.
played a clean game. Clean game, Louisville. Good job.
Go ahead, Rich.
Okay, so before I get started onto my little tirade, I want to first give credit to the women's volleyball team. I forgot to say something to this on this pod last week. The volleyball team swept Kentucky. Now both these teams came in ranked, and Kentucky thought they was going to do something. I watched that game. I was very impressed with the women's volleyball team. They came in there and just put the pimp smack on Kentucky. So props to them. If this is a U of L UK show podcast, we got to talk about all U of L UK sports. And
I give it to
volleyball
you.
is one of them. So
I
I
give it
wanted
to
to give I wanted to give props to the women.
No, you say
Okay.
good things.
How'd the
All
golf
right.
team do?
Uh,
How'd the ping pong team go? How'd they do?
Soccer team won too.
hey,
They
wait,
beat
hold,
UK.
hold. And they sports and the athletic department, or you half step. See, I mean, somebody accused me of being a super fan. See, super fan is in there thick and thin, hella high water on every sport that the athletic program puts out there. Regardless, you put your colors on and you get out there and support them. Now, getting back to my tirade, some people watch. When they claim they watch U of L, they watch U of L from the highlight reel. They get the ESPN highlights and then they make their judgments, how let folks come out there like Flutie and all sorts of stuff. I'm not pointing out any names, Dietrich, but when you watch the game in full and watch it every minute of the game, you have a better perspective.
I watched it.
If you watched it, then you would have noticed that, okay, here's a quarterback that has come into this game with a lot of controversy on his back. His ball placement, his decision making. He made one mistake, I think, when he tried to scramble, and once again opted to try to scramble and got sacked for a loss. But when you watch this game, this is a conference opponent who we lost to last year. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm going to say, like Kentucky, they lost to their conference opponent last year too. But what you expect is you expect your team to come in there and you play efficiently. No mistakes. And yes, we put 56 points on them. We actually put 28 on them before they scored, before they put the first points on the board. It was 28-0. Then they rattled off a touchdown, and then we came back and hit another one, and it was kind of back and forth there for a minute. But you want to see that, especially a team that you've had some difficulty with. You all don't say that when Alabama be dropping 50 on your head and 66 on your head, or Tennessee and all these other schools in the SEC conference beating up the other opponents in the conference with 50-plus points. Somebody, are you mimicking me, PJ? Is that what you're doing?
He couldn't get it out with a straight face.
I'm trying to
get it out.
understand the comparison. So, but continue, because I got something I'm waiting. I'm on that.
Okay. But what I liked about the game is I watched the quarterback, and I've been hard on Plummer. I've been very hard on Plummer, but I saw him, make some improvements today. Now, we played at home, and we played an opponent that we was only supposed to be picked to win by 14, and we beat that head. What I want to see him do is do this same performance against NC State on the road. So it lets me know that it ain't because he got that super juice from the crowd and the home field advantage. Let's see you do that same kind of performance against NC State, which I think we should go out there and beat them after watching how they played Virginia. But I did notice we had a lot more tackles for loss. The offensive line kind of took a step back. We had, I think it was 5 tackles for loss, and we gave up 3 sacks. Like I said, 2 of them, which
2 sacks.
3. According to the stats here, it said 3, but maybe I'm reading that wrong.
You're looking at Boston College. He's looking at ours. We gave up 2 sacks.
But anywho, 2, 3. We did take a little step back, but I'm glad to see that everybody, all the studs got fed again. The only person who didn't get their 100 yards was Thrash, but at least he walked out there with a TD, and we kind of fed somebody else his yardage. But that makes it more difficult for the next team to try to single out and try to stop one part of the game when we have both running and receivers that can do the job. So,
I mean,
but other than that, it was a good game.
You had Higgins Bruce that had 110 yards receiving, and then you had Jordan at 134 yards rushing. So, I mean, you guys were dominant on offense. Hey, the second quarter, you guys scored 28 points. The second quarter is by itself. So, yeah, you guys were definitely dominant in that game. I think when you have a game like that, right now, number one, going into it is kind of confusing because you see a Boston College team that does push Florida State to its very limits, and then they come into the Louisville game and they lay an egg, and you wonder why that is. Is there injuries? Did they just play above their head against Florida State? Whatever it may be, it is kind of confusing. But whatever it may be, Louisville came in, did exactly what they needed to do. In that, I don't think that you can glean too much from Louisville. I think the most part, and what I was explaining in text to one of you guys, is when you have an opponent that you can just dominate like that, it's important to play a clean game. You know that your players know their assignments, what they're supposed to do. Know that they're playing with maximum effort, that they can beat their one-on-one assignments and such. You're really working on your schemes to make sure that, you're really sounding it. And I think Louisville found their answers in that. The next question is, okay, when North Carolina State comes, or maybe Notre Dame comes, a tougher opponent, how much resolve do my players have? Are they going to hide in the big moments, or are they going to step up to that occasion? But go ahead, PJ. I think that you had a comment.
Yeah, hold on. Go ahead.
He wants to go backwards. All right, go back.
I got to charge up the gun real quick.
Charge it up.
So first, let's start with the volleyball thing. I think Kentucky's out of our school, do y'all have a championship in volleyball?
Oh.
We have three straight Final Fours or two straight Final Fours.
No. I asked, do you have a championship?
We don't have a COVID championship.
No, wait. That's all I needed. All I needed was
we don't have a COVID championship. You're right.
all I needed was
goalposts.
Second of all, let's get down to the nitty-gritty when it comes to Boston College. Okay, so with Boston College, the last opponent they played, if I am correct, they played Florida State, right? Florida State. To me, the game is kind of like is what it is. It's one of those games where they probably did overlook. They probably did come in there just like, this is Boston College. They're horrible. They lost to Northern Illinois. There's no way we should lose to this team, right? The team they played, they barely beat Holy Cross by 3, and their quarterback was 10 for 15.
So you're saying that they were disinterested when they came in there? Is that what you're trying to say?
I'm saying that there was probably not a fire, and that's something we see with teams. We all got to be honest. Like
they
you mentioned,
lost to Northern Illinois.
Yes, bro, Northern Illinois. And here's the thing, and we can be honest because I know even when Louisville had Lamar, right? There were times y'all probably played teams that it started off not as hot as you probably liked it because it took a little bit for them to get into the game. It did. That when it comes to when you have really good.
Late in the third.
No, because Boston College was leading that game most of the game. Florida State had to fight to come back and take over and dominate that game. They had to fight to come back. Boston College was leading most of that game. See what I'm saying? And then they came out in the halftime and took over.
No.
This actually scored by halftime was 17-10. And then about a third
17-10. There you go. So it wasn't a runaway.
It was 31-16, and they scored 13 points in the fourth to make it look closer.
Make it look closer. 13 points in the fourth.
To make it look closer.
Yeah, they were up by 3 scores at one point. Just saying. Boston College was not leading that game.
But again, to my point though, is that this Boston College team, when you say that they will probably be the toughest team on our schedule, I totally disagree. Listen, say what you want about Vandy. Vandy at least has something that they're good at this year. They at least have one thing they're good at.
What's that?
PJ.
Because their quarterback is pretty decent. Their quarterback is thrown for 300 yards.
And the receivers are pretty
in the last
decent.
2 games. And he's ran for a bunch as well.
I'm about to throw a wrench in your plans here because you're going to say because they were disinterested, Florida kind of walked through that game, and so Boston College is not really that tough.
I'm saying they're good because they lost to North Illinois.
Okay, well, let's just say you're correct.
And barely beat Holy Cross.
So being the fact that they came out of that Florida State game, do you think they would be a little bit hyped? Man, we took Florida State. We almost beat them, or we had a chance to beat them. So they would be coming out with their chest all puffed up, making them more of a dangerous opponent for the next team.
You have to have the talent
more
to do that,
victory.
bro. You have to have the talent to do that.
But you think about it. If I was on the Boston College team after coming out of that Florida State game, I would be looking at Louisville like, man, this is meat on the bone that we might be able to trip up. So we're going to come in this game hyped. So you really can't say
Well,
that.
you got to hold on. You got to hold on with that. Hold on. Because you can be hyped. You could say you took Florida State to the brink. All right. Oh, we can do this. We can do whatever. Coming against Louisville, we can beat them. You can have that confidence, but if you don't have the ability, it means nothing.
Well, I agree with you, but here's the thing. I read some of their sports beat writer pages. You know how you go out there to Chronicle. They got one, and all of their reporters were thinking, yeah, we if we lose, it'll be by a touchdown or less. I think we can run with them for a little bit, but attrition is going to wear us down. That's what they were talking. Most of their reporters were thinking that there's a good opportunity if Louisville comes in there and overlooks us in preparation for North Carolina State. There's an opportunity we might get them, and it'd be because we would just don't have the talent to run with them. But we can hold the line because we got a better offensive line we have a better defensive line than they do, and we might be able to stop their run. That's what they were talking about. So,
but even with that, I understand that. But even with that, you got to understand. I didn't know that they lost against Northern Illinois. You lose against Northern Illinois, then you have this miraculous game against Florida State, and then you come out against Louisville.
It wasn't even that miraculous.
You come up against Louisville, and it looks like that you don't even belong on the field. There was something that was happening there in that Florida State game. That's the anomaly with all this, with that stretch. That's the anomaly.
When Florida State is up by 3 touchdowns in the third quarter, the score close, but the final score is not an indication that Boston College was all of a sudden a good team. They put together a few good drives at the right time to bring the score close. Outside of that 10-minute window, they've not played good ball all season.
Okay, let me correct you on something here. First off, it was 24-10 deep in the third, and Boston College was marching down the field and fumbled the ball. Yeah, I'm looking at it right here. I'm on the stat page. I'm sorry, am I missing? Boston College was marching down the ball, and then they had an interception. Florida State marched it back and made it 31-10. That was the margin. They scored
on the first drive in the third quarter. They scored on the first drive in the third quarter, making it 24-10. They scored on either the next or the next after drive, making it 31-10. And then
due to an interception. Yeah. Okay, so and then they made it 31-10 was the margin, and it was, where is this at? Middle of the third quarter, 31-10.
Middle of the third quarter, yeah.
And that was because Boston College was marching on. I mean, I'm looking at the yardage here. Maybe I'm reading this wrong. Maybe I'm reading this wrong.
Boston College finished the game strong. That's fine. I agree with that. But they're not playing good ball. They're not a good team. They lost to Northern Illinois. They got they.
Yeah, I'm not
what y'all did to them.
The merits of Boston College. I agree with you.
Sitting here.
They weren't weak. They were sort of trash. But again, when you look at computers, they all say Boston College would have been UK's second hardest opponent up to this point. So
then you sit here and you look at the yardage.
Yeah, I agree.
PJ, you saying they do nothing good. Their quarterback started. He came in the first half of the Florida State game, literally turned the game around. We as Louisville fans have seen that happen. It's not for you to know, but Steve Slayton and Pat White did that to us against West Virginia years ago, and we actually lost the game up in West Virginia. So it is possible for somebody to come in and change the whole fabric of the game. You go from a pro-style quarterback to a dual-threat quarterback, and I'm watching him against us, and our guys couldn't get him down on the ground. He's 5'10". He's got a low level of center of gravity. He's fast. He's elusive. And he has a decent arm. So we're watching him smoke us for 400 yards, 400 yards just about.
Okay.
He did the same thing to FSU. So that changed the whole complexity of the game when they brought him in and they force-fed him the football at that point. Yeah,
but he was also
Boston
13 for
College is
28
trash.
against Northern Illinois for 46% interception.
We all know Boston College is not a top quality.
I know, and I was responding to what
but when you sit there and you analyze the team, I'm looking at, okay, so Boston College had 457 yards compared to 350 for Florida State. They both had the same number of first downs. Boston College actually held the ball longer than Florida State. So are you saying they're dominating them because of the fact that, hey, there's no way in, because the way I'm looking at the game, seriously, if Florida State didn't wake up when they woke up, they probably could have lost this game. Because, when you watch the game, it was closer than what it looked on the scoreboard. And I'm not taking anything away from Florida State, and I'm not giving anything extra to Boston College other than to say that it's still a conference opponent, and you still got to get out there in that field, and you still got to treat them like you're supposed to beat them handedly.
I just think for Louisville, this was their high watermark for their offensive performance. I don't think they're going to ever approach 600 yards for the rest of the season. If they hit within 20 yards of 600 yards again for the rest of the season, I'll say I'm wrong. I just don't think that's going to happen.
Nah, you won't.
I don't think they're going to. I don't think Plummer is going to. Hey, Plummer is not going to throw for 390 yards. Y'all not going to have a 200-yard, nearly 200-yard rushing day. I don't think y'all have that again against any of your other opponents. I think this was the best you're going to see your offense the entire year, and that's based on the caliber of defense that you're playing. Now, what it does say about Louisville is y'all got it in the chamber, so other teams do have to take y'all downfield threat more serious than they probably would have in previous years. Because he was slinging them downfield, and my thought was why they just didn't. If I'm beat on a 30, 37, 54, 60-yard pass play, I am tackling the wide receiver and giving up the 15 yards versus a 60-yard pass play. That's just me.
I took a picture of you, so when it does happen, I can put it up and click up. This is.
I know Will's about to say something. I know we move on. Will. I just want to say, I do want to say again. I have been impressed with Louisville's offense. I think Louisville does have some elements to the offense. You can't deny it, whether you're a fan or not. They have some elements to their offense. Yeah. To me, and again, what I was responding to is there's always a fluffing up of Louisville's opponents. Not just y'all. Like I work at a church on Sunday. I just heard a guy who's I work in Louisville, guy who is a big Louisville fan, and the amount of fluff he added to Boston College. I'm like, bro, did we watch the same game? Because this team, you can watch them. Again, I'm accepting the
look. I didn't mean to add no fluff. I'm not
fluffing them up, but I'm not tearing them down either.
But here's my thing was again, like Vanderbilt's not good, right? They're not good, but at least Vanderbilt does something good. There is something that Vanderbilt has that is at least good. To me, when I look at Boston College, I don't see a thing.
You talk about the quarterback. I don't understand how you can see their quarterback run around against two different teams and compile 600 yards of offense.
That's fine. Against Northern Illinois,
that's something good.
He had one interception and 115 yards.
You keep going back to his first game where he came off the bench. He wasn't even a starter in that game.
Threw 28 passes.
Well, what is it that Vanderbilt does good?
Okay.
All right.
That's what
hold on. Before we talk about Vandy, before we talk about Vandy and Kentucky,
Forest at home. That's what they do good.
Hey, before we talk about Vandy and Kentucky, can you honestly say you expect Plummer to throw 18 for 21 again the rest of the season? You think he completes 85% of his passes against any of your other opponents? I say no. I don't think he
wait a minute.
Hey, show me the 85%.
All right, guys, we got to move it on.
It's
We got to move it on. We are 34 minutes into the podcast, and we're going strong about what Louisville did. Let's switch gears for a second. Let's switch gears. So Kentucky, and I'm sorry I don't have any highlights to show anybody, but Kentucky against Vandy. As everybody knows, Vandy beat Kentucky last year, so Kentucky had a loss to avenge this year, and they did actually a pretty good job of it. The final score was 45-28, and just to keep with the same theme, I don't know how much our Louisville counterparts actually watched the game, but Richard, let me start with you. What are your thoughts on that?
I thought, first off, I thought y'all's defense stepped up. I thought that was the best element of the game. Your quarterback still isn't SEC ready, in my opinion. I think if Florida doesn't expose y'all, Tennessee and everybody else in your schedule will. I think your quarterback, even though he came from North Carolina State or whatever, is that where he came from? North Carolina State?
Yeah, NC State.
Yeah, NC State. Okay. I think I just don't think he's ready. I mean, yeah, you all beat up on Vandy, but the mistakes he was making, decision making, the throws and everything were just, some of them were just not there. And the other decision, the stuff that he was doing was just not, I don't think he's ready. I mean, I could be wrong, but watching your game, I thought your defense stepped up and did pretty good. I can see places in that game where Vandy looked like, man, let's just run through the motion, run through the numbers. And you always slip up and give them a gift. The offense would mess up with a pick and do something stupid. And then wait a minute, let's see if we can do something with this. But throughout most of the game, you could me looking at Vandy looked like they knew they would beat, and we just going through the motions right now. Let's just hurry up and get this game over with. And it's very demoralizing when you look up in the stands, and although they only had a left and a right side, you look up in the right side, and there are more UK fans on the visitor side than there are on the home side. So it's pretty much almost like a home game for you guys. And when you all were out there cheering, they just felt like they were just mailing it in. That's what it looked like when I was watching that game. So that's what I thought.
It's Nashville, and Kentucky has a large fan base in Nashville still. So,
but that doesn't happen like that in U of L. Even in U of L's down games, it didn't look that bad. It didn't look like half the stadium was UK fans. Now, when we cleared out, then yeah, but not at the beginning of the game when they panning around and all you see is blue on one side and white, gold, or whatever the colors are on the other side. It just really looked demoralizing. I would hate to be Vandy coming out there playing y'all in the way we were. So
PJ, just by your responses, I know that you have a reply back to him. So go ahead.
What? I was giving you a
I was just saying,
was laughing.
What are you saying? Like, because we're comparing Vandy and like Louisville. Like this is two different. Vandy is in the SEC, okay, right? We all know this. They're in the SEC by committee. Like their academic school, they've never been like really like at least in my lifetime, really been like that football school. Even though we've been horrible, we still show up to games. I don't care what y'all say. I've been at the games. I've been at the games where we get beat by 30, and we still show up to the games. Vandy is a whole different thing. The construction, all the stuff going on. Beautiful city. Nashville is a really great city.
Do y'all do like that with Tennessee? Y'all closer to Knoxville than you are to Vandy. So, or do y'all do like that with Knoxville?
Knoxville is a horrible city. Like I said, Nashville is a really good city. There's more than just UK fans there. Nashville has different elements to it that Knoxville would never have. Facts. It's a big city. It's a pro city. They have pro teams in Nashville. People who are a lot of work. There's a lot of people who live there. You're not gonna find that in Knoxville when they aren't in big canvas. It doesn't make sense. That's like saying Tennessee fans, oh, y'all go to Lexington, y'all don't got a lot of fans showing up. Why would they have a lot of fans?
I was not knocking Kentucky for the fact that y'all's fans show up. No, I'm just saying, as a Vandy player, I would feel really demoralized when I came out there on the field yesterday and just looking at the body language of the players and half of them would, they just didn't have no emotion to try to win the game. And, you all did a good job. Your defense did what they were supposed to do. I like the fact that they were plugging up the holes. They were getting there, doing what they were supposed to do, putting pressure on the quarterback. How many sacks did y'all get? I didn't read the stats, but y'all did pretty good. Enough tackles for losses and stuff like that. Your receivers kind of tripped me out. Nobody was catching the ball, helping him out. But could be that you all weren't just up for the game. But like I said, I'm your quarterback is what really questions me at this. I expected after game 4, he would have, went out there and had a kind of an execution like Plummer did, but he didn't. So,
all right. That's fair. The execution part and everything. That's fair. I mean, because that's one of the things that a lot of the UK fans has been on Kentucky about, the execution on the offense. It's very inconsistent. But Perry, what is your response? What is your thoughts on that?
I was just saying it was 1 sack. Both teams had 1 sack. I do agree. UK's defense is probably one of the best in the nation. I'm not going to take anything from that. Vandy, to me, doesn't do anything good. I've watched them play. Their quarterback is not – he's the quarterback. Their coach couldn't decide which quarterback to use last year. He had the one dude come in and take over, but it's obvious that he must have told the quarterback that's starting this year, you're starting this year, and the other guy transferred out, the guy that literally beat UK. And then UK took their running back because, UK, they always getting everybody else's players. So the best players from the jump teams. It's like
he graduated.
No, Kentucky is one of the best in transfer portal. They are.
Yeah.
So,
Davis graduated.
Davis
graduated.
Really good at getting other people's. He did, and he had to go to UK. Okay, all right. But anyways, like Richie was saying with your offense, your wide receivers, they're inconsistent, but it might be because they're just not getting up for these games. And you'll probably see them turn in NFL big Sunday type games when they have bigger, better opponents. I'm a little disappointed in like how your quarterback is turning the ball over a lot. And I'm the way you guys make it sound, at least one of his turnovers is the wide receiver's fault every game, and then the other 1 or 2 is his fault for bad passes. But I would be concerned if my quarterback is throwing, interceptions against bad competition like that. And that's all I saw. I mean, you do have some explosive plays. You do have your Ray Davis is as advertised. He is as advertised. So, I mean, we should talk about it later, or we could talk about it now. But I was trying to say earlier today that it's looking like parity is starting to catch up with all of college football with the transfer portal and NLI, to where the SEC is not this overwhelming presence on the college football scene. You're seeing all of these teams wind up and beat or play SEC teams close in the preseason. In years past, you'd see 60-point beatdowns and 50-point beatdowns of all these teams from all these other teams, even mid-major teams like Nevada. Nevada goes in, Vanderbilt goes in, they lose to Nevada. They struggled with Hawaii. And I'm telling you, last year, Vandy was like, we're putting 60 points on Hawaii. We're not going to let this one team beat us like that. They were pretty good in their offseason. They were, 3-0 before the SEC schedule caught up with them. So I really believe that, this is the time. The time is now. You can. What's your boy do? What's Shadur? He's pointing at it. That's for UK. If y'all ever gonna do something in the SEC, this is the time, because the SEC ain't about nothing this year.
And with that whole monologue that Perry has given us, what do you think about that game, Dietrich? What's you thinking?
Okay, just about the game, because there's so much to address with what Perry said.
Oh, yes.
But just about the game, anytime your quarterback has more interceptions than touchdown passes, it's a bad day. I don't care that, we won.
He cut out.
Uh-oh. Yep, he cut out.
Yeah, that's what happens when you get ready to talk some mess.
God has spoken.
God
can rejoin us.
I'll step in while he's.
Be careful. You know how they say, when the bad prophets come up here, he'll smite them down.
Shall not offer strange fire. So.
No, I mean, but for real though, I mean, I agree that it's so hard with Larry for me, because he'll do passes that you're like, that's a really good pass, and then he'll do something that's like, that was very, very stupid. Yeah, he's been very inconsistent. Like my mind goes back, and I wrote down some of this stuff because when I was watching it, my mind goes back, first of all, of course, to the interception he threw to Berryon, which was very forced, of course.
Yeah,
very forced. I believe that. I will say this: in the correct cadence of how the play was supposed to develop, it would have worked. It would have been it's a touchdown or it's a long. If he catches the ball, let me say that if he catches the ball, it's a long convert. It's a long first down or it's a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
He got thrown off by the rush on the outside where he stepped into the pocket. It threw him off with it was a second too late. If he threw it a second or two earlier, first down, touchdown. If he catches the ball easily, but again, he forced the pass for no reason. Like there was no reason. Yeah, when he threw the long ball to Berrien, like if he throws it a second or two sooner, it's there. But it was off, and like you said, it's very inconsistent.
Yeah,
and I'm gonna say every single week. Y'all gonna hear me say every single week. Maxwell Harrison is a pro. He's playing on Sundays. I don't care what anybody's talking about. Hey. I don't care how small the cornerback. He plays the hardest position on the field, and that boy plays football, y'all. It's enjoyable. I can sit there and watch. I don't even care about the offense at this point. I can sit there and just watch our defense play. Watch him. Just locate on Maxwell Harrison and watch that young man play cornerback, bro. It is a beauty to watch.
I think they said I think they said last year he couldn't see the forest for the trees, but this year he's seeing the whole forest. He's seeing everything.
Man, listen, he's good. And like I said, even with Vanderbilt. Now again, Vanderbilt. It's Vandy, okay. We're not gonna fluff them up. Now he did pretty well against most. He's had at least over 115 QBR with every team he's played this year, even in the losses. He's done decent. He's had like almost 3 touchdowns in every single game. And this is the first game he played and this is the second Power 5 team he played, not the first. Where
115 QBR. Did you say 115?
Close enough. I'm doing a rough estimate. I'm not knowing this exact. But either way, he's had about almost 3 touchdowns. I think his couple he had 2. This game he had none. I think his QBR was like a 64. And we had like 7 pass deflections. Defense was balling out. That's the highlight of our team right now, which kind of makes sense under the Mark Stoops team because he's a defensive guy. But I've been very impressed with them. Offensively, of course, I wrote down this. I said one thing that I hate so far is that outside of the whole inconsistency with the quarterback, we're not good in short yardage, but we're really good in explosive plays. And I feel like that comes back to bite you when you play really good teams.
Yeah, and that's what I was kind of explaining to Perry in text when we seen the rate of explosive plays, Kentucky being 3rd in the nation, and that was one of the reasons why. I mean, we have a lot of those plays. Like we had 2 plays in a row where we hiked the ball and Devin Leary, well, he drops the ball and he has to fall on it. Very next play, somebody steps on his foot coming from up underneath center, and it was like another sack, but he sacked himself basically. So that's 2 different plays. Yeah. And then right after that, bam, you have an explosive play, and it's just like, you're kind of all over the place.
It's a Davis run, right?
I don't forget what it was.
Might have been G-time, but I know. The thing is, I think he heard my remarks last week. McCain, he definitely heard my remarks. He definitely brought it out. But here's the thing, though. I'll give it to us too, though. It's like it used to be in times past where 3rd and long, I was very, very worried. Right now, mind you, we converted a lot of 3rd downs because we got it in 3rd and manageable, and you could just give it to Benny or give it to one of the guys behind that wall, and you could get 3 yards. I mean, we was close to averaging that. I mean, that was easy for us for most part. This time, even though I'm not saying we are converting at a very high rate, but I'm not as worried on 3rd and long anymore because I feel like on any 3rd down, we pretty much gonna get it. We can get it.
There were several examples in that game, yeah.
We have the quarterbacks to do it. We have Ray Davis coming out the backfield to do it. Like it's. I'm not as worried, but again, the inconsistency is what worries me the most because he can't play like that against. We play against Florida next week, right? We can't play like that against Florida. That happens. It's horrible for us.
And that's where I dropped out.
I went back and watched. Go ahead, Dietrich. Go ahead.
Well, no, where I dropped out, I think I was in the middle of saying if the quarterback has more interceptions than touchdown passes, it's a problem. When he was simply just missing. He was simply just missing receivers, overthrowing them, throwing them high. There were a couple that he overthrew, and it was like, is he throwing it at the knees of the safety? Like, where is he throwing this ball? And there were a couple like that was just like, okay, this doesn't make any sense. Now, like you said, on contrast, there's some, it's like, how do you fit it in there? But, just that total inconsistent play. And I don't know if the inconsistent play with his ball placement, has to do with his confidence in the pocket. When I say confidence, the line is, I think, going to affect his confidence and his timing in the pocket. This is not the big blue wall. They cannot give him the time. When we play Georgia, we better run some screens and quick slants, and because we're not going to be able to hold back a competent pass rush. It's not going to be pretty.
You're on mute, Lathan. Nobody
I
can
think
hear you.
you're on mute.
Okay, I'm sorry. I actually think that Kentucky's offensive line did fine against the pass. It was the run that where I had the issue with. And this is what I was about to say earlier. I went back and rewatched the game, and I put my football coach hat on as I was watching the game and trying to really break down. I was actually watching plays, going back, rewinding, watching plays, going back, rewind. I would watch the same play 3 or 4 different times just to see, make sure I knew what happened, what was going on. This is what I think that the inconsistency with offense, I don't want to say it's by design, but I do want to say that it's kind of expected right now, even though the coaches aren't saying that. Because, and here's why. When we are running the ball, how many running plays does a normal college football offense have? They have 6, 7, 8 different running plays. Kentucky ran a boatload of different type of running plays. In the end, they changed up the blocking scheme because you had zone blocking schemes and you had several different types of zone blocking schemes, but then you had the man gap blocking schemes as well. And I'm like, why are we doing this? And I noticed when we started the game and Juton McClain had the explosive running play off bat, it was off of a man gap blocking scheme. If you know anything about Kentucky, when Benny Snell and when C-Rod in the past, when they're going off and they're running over teams, Kentucky was running a lot of inside zone and a lot of man gap blocking schemes. They wasn't doing a lot of outside zone. Since we've had Liam Cohen his first year, we was horrible at the outside zone, and we scrapped it. And C-Rod, he was able to get his runs and stuff off of man gap. Last year, we had Rich Scangarello comes in. He forced the outside zone. We did okay, but we still weren't all that good in it. This year, in particular in that Vanderbilt game, it was like a tale of 2 different offensive lines depending on what kind of blocking scheme we were doing. We're just not good at the outside zone stuff. That's what it is. And it's like, to me, it's like Liam Cohen knows this because you start the game, bam, you reel off a real huge, a big run, and you knew that. So then later on, you kind of go back to the stuff that you need to work on. Then look in the third quarter, oh, we need big run again. He goes right back to the man man gap blocking scheme, and we're blowing those holes open again. And so it's just like, is he doing this on purpose? If you're an offensive coordinator and you work your salt, you have to be doing that on purpose. You're trying to work it out some kinks because you're thinking, okay, we can do this, but we need to do something else as well. Let us work on this during the game. And he does a little bit of that in the passing game as well. Look, in the first game of the season, we ran a bone set out of pistol. We haven't ran that since. Yeah. The second game, we had other formations we haven't ran since. He's tweaking with this stuff as we're going along. And I don't think people actually realize that. I really didn't realize that until I went back and looked. And I was like, wait a minute. He ain't done this before. And a lot of inconsistent stuff that we have, we ain't run this play before. We ain't seen this play since game 2. Like, why is he doing this? I don't think a lot of people actually understand that part. And I think that's the NFL part of Liam Cohen, to be honest with you.
Well,
go ahead.
If I may add my little 2 cents. Now, first off, my football knowledge is very limited compared to yours. So when you're talking man gap and all this stuff, I have to sit down and Google to make sure I understand exactly what you're talking about. But what I do understand is all the different sets and arrays and formations. Yeah. And when you're talking about how his offense, they ran this, they don't run this anymore. I remember Bobby Petrino did stuff like that. Bobby Petrino 1.0. when he did that. And like you said, it's preparing the athletes for what they would expect to see in the NFL, a more complicated playbook. And really, teams with the coaching staff that's been entrenched as long as you all have had your coaching staff, I would expect that. I'm pretty sure your other complicated teams like Tennessee, definitely Florida, definitely Alabama, I'm pretty sure they probably do some of the same things. However, because they got the talent on a different level, they can pull it off and don't have the miscues that you see, or maybe they drill it so often, so much, and demand perfection in a way that UK is not accustomed to or not being coached. I'm not taking nothing away from UK and their product, but I've seen Bobby Petrino's teams do this. I mean, there was one time I was watching the Miami game when they came up here and played, and we beat them. And the first thing off in the first drive, the commentators like, man, I ain't never seen so many dazzling set of arrays and formations, because he would go from the pistol to spread to wishbone, all that, and had multiple plays out of those different formations. And you think to yourself, man, how are they able to formulate a working offense, practice that during the offseason, play that in games, and make sure that everybody is on the same page when they get up to that huddle and break huddle? It's amazing. But usually teams that have had their coaching staff in place start developing a system, and over the years it starts getting like that. The complication is probably necessary, especially when you got players that have matriculated all 4 years, getting them ready for the pros. And then new players coming in, the old ones can teach them, hey, man, this is what we do. And so once you get your established coaching core in there and y'all start formulating your plays, I mean, Liam Cohen, this is his second stint with UK, but how many years has he been as offensive coordinator at UK now? Has it been, 4 years now?
No, this is just a second one. It's just he was at
second in this rotation.
Well, I mean, I'm talking about overall. And his overall, I mean, he took a year off.
Overall, two.
2 years? Okay.
It would have been 3 if he didn't leave last year. But yeah, I agree. I do agree with some of what you're saying, because, I mean, you're trying to teach this style of play to, I mean, sophomores. They're I don't want to say inexperienced, but they have less experience than your upperclassmen. Because I made this point last podcast, the people that he's actually developing the chemistry with is your upperclassmen, but those are the people that are also going to be ahead in the playbook, because they understand the concepts, conceptualizing the playbook instead of trying to learn the whole playbook play by play like a freshman or sophomore would. So when you look and see a Barry and Brown struggle or a Dane Key struggling, they're swimming mentally. It's not really about the physical part. They're swimming mentally, and they just got to catch up. And then also it's your quarterback getting on the same page with them. So this is kind of new to them. So
on the blocking scheme, with this particular, because like we said, Davis is a different running back than what we've had in the last few years at Kentucky, right? He's very improvisational. He can be heavy and spurty and do a lot of lateral. So a zone blocking scheme is really what he needs to get down. Like when you zone block, the emphasis is on the running back to choose kind of where he wants to go. It gives him a little more freedom in the run play, right? And so when the zone up, when the line is moving to that outside, he can wait for the line to open up and then just spurt through. Whereas, if you man gapping, you're picking a gap, you're opening that gap, and when you got a heavy runner like C-Rod, you got and certainly Benny Snell. Even when we ran all that Wildcat. When you got just a downhill runners love, give me the gap, let me hit the hole. Guys, give me 18 inches and I'm going 18 yards. But with the zone block, which is where I think if we get it.
This about 20 minutes ago. Go ahead.
Ooh,
I didn't say that. I meant Dietrich. Dietrich researched this. He didn't know this 20 minutes ago.
I'm sitting here.
I
played center and guard.
This brother.
I played guard and center. What are you talking about?
Actually played in high school or something?
Hey man. Look. I played more football than Perry. Let's talk about that.
You know what I'm saying? I was sitting here. Where did you get that up on my head?
Listen,
Hey,
listen.
man.
I just want to call you out on one thing. You talked about how your quarterback, there were passes that he just didn't make, that he was just off.
He just missed.
Hey, we've
Yeah.
been saying the same thing about our quarterback before this last game, for the last 3 games. For that, he has thrown passes that were there that could have got first downs, touchdowns, everything, and he's made a mistake where he either threw the ball too short, threw it too late, didn't throw it on time. One time had a wide receiver almost catch the ball and literally throw the ball up into the defensive back's hands for an interception and it was a 75-yard touchdown. Just sitting there waiting. So yeah, it happens to us too. You know,
I would still take
Y'all
him
act
over.
like my last name ain't Sanford, and my whole family has not played football their entire life.
I will say,
You know, Keo Sanford is still my cousin.
Talking don't count, man. We're not talking about football. We're talking
Keo
about
is still my cousin, okay?
I don't know how you feel about it, but
that's
Will, but
Keo. That's
at
your
this
family,
rate,
yes.
Go ahead, PJ.
at this rate, even with the inconsistencies of Leary, as far as the passes that he has made that have been really good, they've been really, really good.
Yeah.
I would dare to say, I think it's fair to say that I would still take him over Levis. Well, what Levis was doing
Yeah,
last
you can.
Yeah.
You can.
because
Okay, but
Levis
wait a minute. Are you looking at that in perspective? You got your
No,
quarterback right now
so-
who's a 5-year senior, right?
Dietrich
So what I'm saying is this: Levis, if you watch Levis play, one thing I'll give Leary, even though Leary makes inconsistent passes, and when I say passes, I'm talking about how he's throwing the ball, where he's throwing the ball. For the most part, he makes pretty good reads.
Yes.
So outside of he may throw a bad ball, like it might be like underthrown
Agreed.
plays.
Agreed.
There might be miscommunication with
Agreed.
receiver, but almost like even like our last interception last game, right, with Dane, and Dane turned it up this game and did a lot better. But the game before, Dane supposed to just do it.
Oh yeah, Key showed up. Key showed up a little bit.
Turn the wrong way. That's on Dane. That's not on the quarterback. That's miscommunication. But as far as reads go, for Will would get stuck on his first read and it would stop there.
Yep.
Like for instance, if he had Tavion, right? His first read is Tavion, and if Tavion's read is not there, he's going to throw it to Tavion.
Yeah, he's gonna do it regardless.
Because he had the arm strip to try to outthrow, but it would also lead to horrible passes as well. Like I'm still good with who we have as quarterback with inconsistency. I feel like if they get worked out, those are things like you said, even with Plummer, right? When those things get worked out, or you feel like he's like, he's on it, it looks really good. And I feel like for Leary, it's the same thing. I feel like if our receivers are catching the ball, and to me, again, I agree with Will, the line didn't look that pass blocking the line. I didn't have no worries. He steps up in the pocket. He makes the right moves, like even like 1/3 and 7. Like you look like we're getting like a bad rush, but it's really not a rush. He's just stepping up in the pocket as the linemen are pushing them outside the contain, and he's running inside to get a first down. Simple stuff. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Really, the pass has been, even on the flip side of defense.
I think that has to do with. I think that had more to do with Vandy not getting a lot of push versus we just really blocked well. I think they just were not. They were not getting bothered. The linemen were just not getting bothered by the pressure. So they were just able to drive them where they wanted them.
It could.
Okay,
I mean,
well,
it could be. It could be different reasons on that. It could be because it's Vandy. We'll find out how they'll fare against Florida.
We'll find out. We'll find out Saturday.
Yeah, they did very well, if you ask me, against Vandy. And I
to my main point.
Go ahead, PJ.
Now I was going to say what I was saying is that on the flip side of that, like where we didn't see a lot of like sacks, there was a lot of hurries on that quarterback. He did not have.
Y'all defense got to him. Y'all defense was.
Yeah, he was miserable. He was miserable. That's what I was speaking to. How, like, again, I'm not saying he's a Heisman candidate. This is some first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh round pick. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying in the previous games, he's done fairly well. But in this game, you could tell he was bothered both in his throwing, where he was throwing the ball to, and the time he had. And I just credit a lot to our defense. They played really, really well.
I'm gonna say this last thing about the Vandy game. The real score of that, and I know me saying this part sounds homerish, but I'm gonna explain why I say that. The real score of that game was actually 38-13. But the reason why I say that is because we were cruising at that point. And I hate our coaches when we do this. In the fourth quarter, and I believe it was 8 minutes to go. 8 minutes to go in that fourth quarter, we went to a soft zone on the back end. We was just letting them have the stuff, and they drove. Of course, Maxwell Harrison, he got a interception, a pick six off of it, by accident, and scored a touchdown. But we went to this soft zone and just let them have whatever. And it's just like, aren't you guys going to stop them? Aren't you guys going to come in with the same intensity? But they didn't. And then they scored that touchdown. And then the very last touchdown, we had the second string in there, still playing a soft zone. It's just like, okay, you're going to give that. And Stoops, in the press conference, Stoops goes, yeah, we substituted a lot, and they drove on us. It's like, I just want you guys to step on their necks and just keep it right there and show. Because, Oregon said against Colorado, he said, it's not over.
The score is what it is,
We're going to keep on going. And I'm like,
the score is what it is.
You know what I'm saying? Why don't you do that?
Two pick sixes. You said two pick sixes. You had 2 pick sixes. That means the actual score was not 38. It was more like 31-13.
Well, the first pick six,
but I do want to point out
that was actually called.
I do want to point out. I do want to point out, with as bad as we feel like Leary Levy, I can't get his name out. Leary played. We still put up 45 points on the board, and we talk about Plummer looking like Doug Flutie. They only put up 11 more points. So Plummer had the game of his life, only put up 11 more points in Kentucky, and we're still complaining that we can't run block correctly. Yeah. Our quarterback is missing. So I think our ceiling, we still got more ahead of us than we got behind us. So I'm encouraged by that.
And I've been saying that it's kind of an anomaly for Kentucky this year, because we are 4-0. Okay, y'all can say it against cupcakes, but still we're 4-0. We're scoring these points and we're saying all these issues. But like you said, I think that does show an indication of how our ceiling is. And I don't think that we've had that in the years past. All right, so guys, let's go ahead and wrap this up. We're an hour and 6 minutes in. Let's talk about what's coming up. Kentucky, we have Florida that's coming up, and it's going to be pretty much the SEC game of the week, because we got the SEC game crew coming in, game day crew coming in. I don't even know what they're called. PJ? What's your prediction?
Man, it depends on what team we get. I think because it's a home game, I actually like us to win by 3. I like where it started off as for Vegas was 3. I feel like I like us to.
I think it's at 2.5 right now.
I said where it started off at. That's why I said 3. Y'all see how I can't even talk. He's ready to come in. I just said I like where it started off at 3. And
you have to jump in there and correct me. I'm just making sure you got your facts straight.
No, I know it's 2.5. That's why I said I like the way it started off at 3. I believe that we have the talent, as it's shown 2 out of the last 3 games, that we can beat this team. I feel like Florida's a decent team. They're not, they always gonna have talent. You know what I'm saying? But I feel like the way our defense is playing, man, I feel like we have a chance. We just need Leary to I'm not saying Leary has to be perfect either, but he definitely has to be more consistent. Him and the receivers have to be more consistent than what they were this past week. Other than that, man, I feel like I still like our chances to win this game by 3.
Dietrich, what is your thoughts on that? What are we going to do against?
Okay, I'm also in on the 1-score victory for Kentucky, but it's going to be based on the one thing that I'm looking at to say we're going to win this game or not will be how clean we play. Can we mitigate the turnovers? We got 7 turnovers on the season. We've got a ton of yellow rags on the field. I think we got 30+ penalties. We're getting a lot of penalties, a lot of mental mistakes. If we play clean, don't make mental mistakes, we can beat them by the 1 score. But if we continue to play, mentally not up to par, we'll lose by 1 score. So it's a coin flip for me. It's either a 1-score win or a 1-score loss. And to me, the delta is, do we play mentally clean or not?
Got you. Yeah, I agree with you on that. And for the record, I think this is what's going to happen. I'm going to give my prediction on the Kentucky and Florida game. I really think that we're going to see a condensed playbook. We're going to see a targeted don't know what to call it, but we're going to see what Liam Cohen thinks of this offense, where he thinks this offense will go.
The bread and butter is.
Yeah, it's going to be a more targeted game plan, and because of that, it's going to be a condensed playbook. I think because of that, we can. I'm not going to say that it's going to be a complete game because I predicted that last week and it wasn't. But I think that we're going to be more consistent. Still be some inconsistencies in there, but we're going to be more consistent than what we were in the previous 4 weeks. That's what I think is going to happen. I want to say I think we covered. If the line is 2, give me 3. I really thinking 7 in the back of my head, but I don't want to get carried away. So moving on, I'm gonna ask the Louisville fans. I'm not gonna ask you guys about Kentucky. I'm gonna ask you what's going to happen.
I want to answer about Kentucky.
No,
I got something to say.
Go ahead, Perry.
He got something to say.
I'm actually looking at the stats, and I watched Florida play in a couple of games. I think y'all gonna beat them by 2 touchdowns.
Gotcha.
I think they can't run the ball at all against a decent squad. They didn't run the ball against Utah. They struggled. They ran the ball against Tennessee because Tennessee, to me, is not a very good elite defensive team. So I think with your front 7, especially your front 4, y'all stop them from running and you make Graham March throw, you're going to win the game because he is not a consistent quarterback by any form or fashion. The preseason, they were scared of how bad his arm was. This was coming out of their camps that his arm wasn't as good. He was off a lot of times. So I really think y'all going to win by at least 2 touchdowns. That's just me.
That's a good point because I do want to see what he can do if the run is stopped and it's on him. Like they say, if you put it on Dak Prescott, he can't make it happen. I want to see if Graham Mertz can make it happen. Go ahead, Richard. What are you thinking?
Well, Perry didn't give his little take on the Louisville game. He didn't give his.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead, Perry. What do you think is going to happen? Louisville versus North Carolina State. What did you say that needed to happen so that College Game Day can come to Louisville?
I looked at the schedule. I got it next. I thought we were playing Duke after we played Notre Dame, but that's wrong. We played Duke like 2 or 3 games after Notre Dame. Ain't no way Duke's going to be, worth anything. I thought, but maybe Miami. Yeah. We might have them come from Miami.
All right, from Miami.
And it might be Notre Dame. If we win this weekend, I said if we win this weekend, Notre Dame beats Duke, you probably see College Game Day back in Kentucky. You never know.
So do you guys cover against NC State, though?
Right now it's 3 points, just like with Florida State. It's at NC State. I think it all depends on the confidence of our team. I've seen lesser confident Louisville teams with less complete structure, with less completion in regards to how they play, lose. Lamar Jackson lost at NC State, and it was one of those games where our defense was sort of like our defense is now. So it could go either way for me. So I'm going to pick Louisville 35 to 28. Man, I gotta go. I've got to do something, but I'll pick Louisville 35 to 21.
35 to 28. All right, go ahead, Richard. Close us out. Louisville.
Okay, well, let me speak on the Kentucky game. I think you are going to beat them too by a couple touchdowns. Reason being is because Florida did not impress me in their outing against Utah, and that was a hostile environment. All the rest of their victories have been in the comfiness of the swamp. They beat Tennessee in the swamp. So they got to go play you all at Lexington, and I'm a big Marvel fan, and one of the lines that was said in Iron Man 2, Whiplash said it to Tony Stark, if you can make God bleed, then there will be blood in the water and the sharks will come. You all have, in the last, 5 years, y'all beat Florida more than once. So you all not afraid of them now. Y'all proven that y'all can beat them in the swamp and at home. So this is going to be a good game. I'm pulling for Florida, because I don't like Kentucky on any level.
Go ahead,
but I got to keep my poise because I have to remember that your success is our success, because if you all win and we get to the end of the year, you all are just a bigger giant for us to knock down. And if we beat y'all, it'll just be more gumbo in that soup. So I believe y'all, maybe not 2 touchdowns, maybe not 2 touchdowns, but you all will win.
before I know you got to get off. I know we got to get off. Will I just need to make sure we understand.
Wait a minute, I didn't give my Louisville prediction, but go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to say before we close,
we have to mention a Kentucky fan. Go ahead.
That Akron played Indiana last week. In Indiana for overtime. Questionable last play to me could have been passed as like a pass interference, but it's okay. But it is what it is. But they really should have beat Indiana on that last in the overtime. They squandered it, but I don't know, man. Remember Richard's the one who told us. He told us wait till Akron plays Indiana, didn't he? Will he said wait till Akron plays Indiana, and we can see how good they are actually. And now we know.
Yeah, now we know.
Okay.
Yeah.
But see, then if you're gonna take what I said on that, then you must take if it's all about playing teams on your schedule and the powder puff teams and the cupcakes, then why come y'all don't put Indiana on your schedule? Because you would have probably beat them better. And the fact that it's a P5 on your schedule, a P5 team on your schedule would have probably been a better. Y'all would have gotten into the top 25 this week because it would have been yet a better looking team on your schedule than Akron. But that's what I'm going to say. That's what I'm saying. We're right behind y'all, next notch behind you, but we're not the mighty SEC, and we're not running around here talking about how we're building a program. We're building a program with all this SEC talent. But let me finish my Louisville prediction here. Something I was concerned about. The spread is really baffling to me. They said Louisville by 3.5 points on the road to North Carolina State. And watching how North Carolina State played Virginia and watching them barely get by VMI and barely get by. I mean,
they can't pass.
I don't understand how the spread can go from 14 with Boston College to 3.5 for North Carolina State, even though we're playing them at North Carolina State. I'm just not impressed with North Carolina State. Now, I think it's going to be a 2-touchdown margin. That's what I think. I think it's going to be a 35-21 or 31-10 game. That's what I'm thinking myself. I think Louisville's going to have an opportunity to showcase a little bit more of that offense that some people say is fool's gold. But as far as what Perry was saying about ESPN Game Day coming to Louisville, I don't think that's going to happen even if we make it to Duke undefeated. If Duke is undefeated, I just think at that time of the year, it's going to be other teams higher up that are still, undefeated, that are going to be battling for that pristine spot in the championship, and we're just not going to get it. I mean, we would have to make it all the way to Miami undefeated, and Miami would have to be undefeated, and that's still next to the last game of the year. There's probably an SEC game, Georgia, Alabama, Part 1 is probably about to kick off. I don't know if they got each other on the schedule again this year, but it's a very slim chance. I mean, we had game day come because our premier game was in the beginning of the season, and they changed it to coming out to Louisville because we started off with Lamar so hot and brought top-ranked Florida State into, and they changed it to bring ESPN to Papa John's that time. But I don't think we're going to get that. But nevertheless, I think game against North Carolina State, 31-10 or 35-21. That's the game.
35.
Hey, if Louisville doesn't beat NC State, they got a real shot of losing 4 in a row.
Well, I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to be like this. If we don't beat NC State, I can't do that. I'm not going to do that. I was going to say I will put on a UK hat for you the next podcast. But if they do win, I'm not going to say because I want y'all to lose. I secretly want y'all to lose to Florida. The only reason I want y'all to win is because I need y'all to be a bigger giant for Louisville to chop down at the end of the year. But when we do win, boy, I'm going to have my Cardinal Kool-Aid. I'm going to have my red shades. I'm going to be really obnoxious on here on the next podcast. You just watch me.
All right, guys. Hey, I got to cut it there.
Possible, but
I gotta cut it there. I gotta leave some meat on the bone because there's some more to talk about there. I gotta leave it there because it's we are hour 18 minutes in, hour 19 minutes in, and we gotta wrap this up. We gotta wrap up this week. There's more to talk about. We'll talk about it next week. But I appreciate everybody who's tuning in. I appreciate you, PJ, Dietrich, Perry, Richard, everybody. You guys rock. Tune in next week. And again, if you guys want to be on the show,